Welcome back to the Competitor Talk. This is your host, Kyle Dangler. This podcast is written by Ladder Grade Works, and today we're very fortunate to be joined by Josh Booty, who played in the NFL and the MLB. He's one of the few players to go through both sports systems and make it the MLB and NFL. So we're going to be talking to him today about, having to, deal with going to the MLB along with the NFL, how the process went, how he chose when to, give up on baseball and pursue his dream of the NFL, kind of, any specific, drills, routines that he did to, perform at such a high level in two different sports, along with, any regrets or, any past, things he wish he did a little bit differently, because, giving up on baseball and giving up on football, must have been tough, having to deal with both and, having to give up on one or the other and, just putting your effort in for two sports. I mean, it's got to be a daunting task. Definitely, having to take on two burdens at one time. So we're going to be talking to him about that, the process of, playing both sports and, a little bit about his time in the MLB and the NFL, talking about, how he got his opportunities with some injuries in the MLB, being such a highly touted baseball player. So we're going to give him a call right now and we're going to get going.
Hey, this is Josh.
Hey, how are you? We're live on the Competitor Talk.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Good, how are you? Yeah, sorry about that. I just had it a little bit wrong.
No big deal. No big deal at all.
Yeah. So welcome
I
to
just
the.
wanted to make sure if you're still wanting to do it.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's do it, brother.
Yeah. So I just wanted to start off. Back in high school, you played both sports, obviously baseball, football, and then just going through, reading about you. Your father was an All-American football player, along with the high school that you went to, producing quarterbacks like Terry Bradshaw and Joe Ferguson. Just curious, taking on that burden of baseball and football in high school, was there a little extra pressure, with your dad being around there, playing football, along with, some of the history at the school?
Not really. My dad was never forceful about, anything. A lot of dads and coaches are real tough on their kids, but my dad was never, my dad never played baseball, first of all, so he never really pushed it. I just fell in love with the sport and wanted to play it, and then, so that was my favorite thing growing up. All growing up was baseball, and then when I got to 8th grade, they had said, hey, if you come out in 9th grade and play QB for us, then we'll let you throw the ball like every down, and we'll try to protect you as good as we can back there, and we'll put you in a deep shotgun and let you throw it every down. And I was like, okay, I'll do that because that sounds like fun. I didn't want to hand the ball off, and do the 3 yards in a cloud of dust or run the option. And when they said they were going to throw the football every down, I was like, man, that sounds like fun, like backyard football. So I got all fired up about that and wanted to play the position, and when I went out there, I just fell in love with it. I mean, it was so much fun, and Friday nights and different things like that going on. In the South, that's all there is. So it's like, we were when we first started, or when I started as a freshman, and so I was running around for my life, but it taught me how to be an athlete. It taught me how to deal with adversity and get hit in the mouth a lot. And I just trying to make plays, And as we got older, it was a group of us that got really, really good together, and we ended up winning a lot of games by the end of it, and breaking a lot of records because no one else was throwing the ball like we did in the U.S.
So did you pick up football in the 8th grade? You never played before then?
I played like
flag or something,
but I was like a tight end in flag because I was a running back. Like I never, when we were little, no one threw the ball, so it was like, I didn't really care about being quarterback because I loved to throw the ball, so I didn't really care about football until about 8th grade, and then started throwing it a little bit in 8th grade, and then I wasn't sure I wanted to play high school football, and they talked me into it. So I did play 8th grade football at a middle school across town, and then they talked me into playing it the next year. I was just going to play baseball and concentrate on that, but I'm glad I played some football.
So, just outside of football, in high school, obviously you were a great shortstop for baseball at your high school. I mean, just dealing with both sports and performing at such a high level, I mean, was there a lot of, extra training you did to, make sure your body was, prepared for both sports, all season round? Or, how did you go about, performing at such a high level in both sports?
Man, I was constantly on the field. I'm that type of person. We'd turn the lights on, and I'd just take grounders, or I'd be over there playing, throwing long toss with coaches, and whoever was out there on the fields, and at the time, I was like messing around with. I mean, I just never was at home. I was always up at the school because it was right across the street from where I lived, and so it was just it was nothing that I did other than just care about being out there. I think I just loved it, and no one ever told me I had to do anything. I was the one asking. I was begging for my dad to throw me batting practice, or my high school baseball coach to hit me grounders, or one of the football coaches to work with me in the gym if it was raining, to throw with me. I mean, I was just always begging for someone to play with, at that age. And I wasn't thinking about nutrition or anything like that back then in the early '90s. I mean, all I was thinking about just playing ball every day. And Terry Bradshaw once told me, he goes, to throw the ball well, you got to throw the ball a lot.
Yeah.
So I wanted to throw the ball a lot. I mean, that's all it was. I wasn't worried about mechanics. I wasn't worried about nothing. I was just,
getting the reps.
I said, I played a lot, so I understood how to play, because they coached me up and my feet and all that. But I just knew the more I threw, the better I would be.
Yeah. So just after high school, obviously you were recruited by a lot of college football programs, and also getting drafted 5th overall in the draft, and then having a record $1.6 million signing bonus. I'm just curious. You talked a little bit before about baseball being your passion. Up until 8th grade when you took on football. Did that have any sway? Along with the money, to pick baseball, because you were more passionate from the start, or how did the process go for you to pick up baseball, professionally over football at first?
Sure. My dream as a little kid was always to play big league baseball, and that's what I loved. I mean, there was nothing like Little League and everything. So, that was a dream. I mean, I remember when I was 12 years old, my dad took me on a vacation to Yankee spring training down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Like, that's all I cared about. And I was baseball. I never even thought about football until I was 14. So, it was. It was a dream of mine since I was a little kid. I had Mattingly and Will Clark and all those posters of these, Jose Canseco, all the guys that I, wanted to be like when I was a little teenager, and so it was always baseball. And I said, what, the way that I'll know that I'm supposed to go play baseball out of high school is if I get more money than anybody else. I was like, that's kind of my indication. And me and my agent, Jeff Morad at the time, who was with Lee Steinberg, Jeff Morad, who the movie Jerry Maguire is based on, they represented me, and they both had football and baseball in their practice, and they represented both sides of, sports, or those two sports. But Jeff said, if we get more money than anybody else, then it'll be
it's an indication.
An indicator, that you need to go and play some baseball, brother. I mean, no one else has gotten the contract that you're getting. I had big league call-ups in my contract, big league spring training. I mean, I was in the big leagues when I was 19 or 20. So it was like, there's a lot to it other than just the money too, as well. So it was, something that that I thought was worth me laying football down for. And I knew I'd have to lay it down for 4 or 5 years, but it wasn't forever. Yeah. If I really wanted to come back, I could, and I ended up doing it. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. You just talked a little bit about before, being in the big leagues, at 19, 20 years old, along with the money. I mean, just being such a high-profile player at the time, back in the 1990s, did you think, at the time, did you deal with a lot of pressure around you? Or did you kind of, put aside the noise and, do your job? How did it go for you to, deal with all the media and the press and stuff like that?
Well, it was a lot, but at the same time, I wanted to be, the next Alex Rodriguez or whatever. He was a year older than me. I played with him all summer in the USA team. And we had batted 3-4 in the lineup, and I was like, I'm going to be, this year's A-Rod, and I'm going to make it to the big leagues quick. And so I was on this path in my head. I was pushing pretty hard to get, to be good. And I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, more than the Marlins put on me, just because I was, wanting to hit 350 with 50 homers. I was like, what am I? I just didn't I wasn't prepared, I think, mentally to, to adjust to being disciplined maybe at that age. It's like, take what they give you. It's like have an approach to play. Don't overswing. Don't try to hit a home run every at bat. It's like I had to learn those things. And, I was such a better athlete than everybody at the high school level that I could go up to the plate until I had 2 strikes and I could swing for the fence. It wasn't that big a deal. But when you get to Double A or whatever, or the minor leagues, it's you're swinging a wood bat for the first time. You're facing guys that know how to get people out. A lot of college kids or guys that have been in the minors a while. I mean, you just got a bunch of guys that know what they're doing. So it's like you got to learn how to hit. You got to learn how to be patient. And I wasn't patient the first year or so. And it was very difficult because I struck out. I swung for the fences. I didn't want to take walks. I wasn't patient. And that was the tough part, I think, because I was pushing to get called up, my first day in the minor leagues. And that's not the way to think,
Yeah, so, just being, in the minors, I mean, you talked a little bit about before, but, was it a tough adjustment, being a professional, having to deal with, playing against older guys and, coming in at, such a young age, dealing with, different pitchers, scouting reports, having to deal with a lot more than, per se in the high school game?
Guys are getting paid to get you out, so you got to learn and adjust. And I mean, went to big league camp when I was 19, and I'm in the locker room with guys that have been in the big leagues for 10, 15 years, like Al Leiter and Kevin Brown and Jeff Conine and Darren Dalton and Gary Sheffield and Devon White and Moisey Zalou and all these guys, and I'm sitting there trying to learn. Terry Pendleton, Bobby Bonilla, these are guys that, I was on the same team as, and I'm 15 years younger. And so, 10, 15 years younger, and guys that have been around a while. So I tried to pick their brain, but you're talking about, I'm 19 years old. I can't go out with them after the game, but they're wanting me to, So it's like, it's an adjustment because coming from a little private school in Louisiana, sheltered kind of environment to Miami with the big boys, and so there was a lot of adjustments outside of baseball, that I had to work through, besides just batting. Fielding always came easy for me, which was weird because a lot of times fielding doesn't come easy for guys, but I could always field, I could always throw across the diamond, no problem. I mean, I was good defensively, and that's what gave me an opportunity to play every day, really, because my bat was a little behind. I hit home runs, and I could hit the ball out of the ballpark with no problem. It was just having good
more contact.
Yeah.
So just when you were in the minor leagues, when you got to the majors, dealing with a bad day, going 0 for 4 or something like that, dealing with the failure, in the back of your mind, were you ever thinking, before you actually, decided to pursue football, kind of that, you were on a path to football, or, how did you decide to, hang up the cleats, baseball cleats, and go to football?
Yeah, well, in 98, I started opening day in the big leagues, and Jim Leland, we were just coming off that World Series, and I'd been called up in 97, and 98 started at opening day in the big leagues, and then I got injured on a throw from right field. Gary Sheffield threw the ball into me, and I was a tag play at third base, and Jeremy Burnett slid over my thumb, hurt my thumb, was out a couple months, and then they put me in AAA at the end of the year, and I really struggled in Charlotte. I hit I think the last month of the season, I was like, I don't know, 10 or 12 for 100. I mean, I hit 110 or something. It was terrible. The lights in the stadium, I can remember, were bad, and I didn't want to be there, and it was awful. And anyways, my brother was playing at LSU as a receiver, and he was doing really well. And I'd always wanted to play with him in Tiger Stadium. So as soon as the '98 season was over, in the off season, me and my agent kind of did some research, and they were going to start me in AAA the next year. And so, and then Huizinga had sold the team to John Henry, who you're up there in the Northeast, owns the Red Sox now. But so Henry let me out of my contract because he wasn't really the one that had paid me initially.
Yeah.
So he let me go. He goes, man, if you want to do that, man, just go back and play football, and we'll own your rights and whatever. So I went back and played football with my brother at LSU, and I did it because I didn't want to go back to AAA, to be honest with you, and I wanted to play football. So I'm going to try this for a year. We struggled the first year at LSU, and then Chancellor Emmert, who's now the president of the NCAA, Mark Emmert, he was the chancellor at LSU at the time, and he hired Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And Saban came in my second year, and we started to turn the thing around.
Yeah. I'm just curious, before we talk a little bit about, more about your football career. You mentioned, you didn't want to go back to AAA. I know this is kind of like a what-if scenario, but if you were to start, in the major leagues, you think you would have stuck with it?
Yeah, if I'd have known I was going to play in the big leagues, I would have probably stuck with it because, it's a feel-good, on a good trajectory type of thing. Like, I was going back down to AAA. I had to start again in the minor leagues. I was miserable. I never liked the minor leagues, which sounds, I guess sounds cliche because the minors suck.
Yeah.
But, some guys just eat it up. They don't mind it. They like the grind and all that. Like, I was like, man, I just wanted to be in the big league so bad. Every day was a nightmare. Like, I just never liked it. So I was like, I want to be in the big leagues, or I want to go play college football. I like the
bright light,
big stadiums, the big lights. I just don't enjoy when no one's there. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, anyways, and maybe that sounds a little something or whatever, but I never played well when no one was there. I always played good when, I just like that environment. I mean, and rightly so, I guess.
No, you can't blame anyone for, wanting, the big stage, obviously, definitely builds up the emotion and stuff.
That's what gave me energy. That's what fired me up. Was a big game. That's why I think I like football so much, because the build up to a big game is so exciting. Like, there was nothing exciting about the minor league, so it was like, what are we doing? Like, who cares if you win or lose? That doesn't even make sense to me. Like, I'm just super, super into, like, the energy and trying to win, and it was just, the minor leagues is just like slow and boring. I don't know. I didn't like it.
Yeah. So, just your freshman year at LSU, you guys didn't have much success, but, you personally, beating out, two future NFL draft picks with Craig Nail and Rohan Davey. I mean, just going through that process and beating them out, I mean, did that give you more of a little chip on your shoulder and more confidence going into your freshman year, coming out of, playing professional baseball, transferring back into the game?
Well, I knew, like, just from practices and everything, that I was a much better, like, thrower. The football is just pure, like, in practice. I mean, even right when I showed up, it was just different because I was in helmet pads and it was hot in South Louisiana in practice, and 2-a-days back then. It was a grind, So that was the toughest part, I think, beating those two guys out. Neither of them had played because there was a guy that had graduated the year before, Herb Tyler, and that was a QB for a year, and so neither Craig or Rohan had played any, and so it was kind of an open battle. And in practice, I was just a lot more efficient. Like, accurate, throwing the ball on time. You know, it was just, I don't think it was close, and so that's why they played me right out the gate. But you know, also the fans were excited that I was back and stuff like that, so that gave me a little boost from a media standpoint, which always helps. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So just I'm curious. Going from baseball to football. Being an older guy. On the college football level. Guys you've seen like Brandon Whedon do it. Just curious. Being an older guy. I mean, did you feel that you were more mature and could read the defense a little bit better because you had a little more experience in professional sports?
Oh, sure. One thing that I didn't have was the camaraderie with the teammates that they had because they had been there for a couple of years and gone through all the training and all the stuff. They had been there with their buddies, but I came in with definitely a different mentality, a pro mentality. So, a lot of people looked up to me, and I was more, I think, on the coach's level as far as like having like normal conversations with them and. I don't know. I think that helped a little bit. But, DiNardo, who was the coach at the time, he was a different cat. He wanted to run the football. He didn't really care about throwing it. And so we didn't play. It didn't play into my style at all. But at the same time, I guess I ended up winning the job and playing. But he wasn't a big passing guy. Like we didn't really get coached up, and that was a real tough thing to deal with because we weren't really prepared to throw the football when we had to in games.
Yeah. So, just going through that, the coaching transfer from DiNardo to, Coach Saban, obviously, Coach Saban, going to LSU, and now, looking back, he's one of the greatest coaches, of all time in sports. Just curious, bringing him in, I mean, did you just automatically see a different, mentality of the team, a different style of play, bringing in Coach Saban?
Yeah, it was definitely the mentality. When he showed up, he was like, we're going to win a championship here. It's just a matter of when, and if you guys are going to be in here or not, like, we're going to win. It doesn't matter. If y'all don't, we're gonna win here at LSU. It might not be you, here sitting in the team room when we do win. But so he brought a little fear factor, like, oh, we better get our stuff together, stuff. But DiNardo was a hard-nosed coach too, so it was not like we didn't work hard. We just didn't work smart. And I think Saban, we worked smart with Saban, and that was the difference. Was we worked smart. We understood what we were doing. And we had a real game plan. And I'm telling you, Jimbo Fisher, who was our offensive coordinator, young Jimbo at the time, was really, really good at getting us all on the same page. So, and he was a good play caller. So we had a chance, And, you're only as good as your coordinators. And Saban had hired some really good coordinators.
Yeah, a lot of people, definitely want to, kind of, think about Nick Saban as one of the greatest, and just like kind of get into his head, with his mentality, his schemes. Can you just talk a little bit about how he prepared for every game to make sure you guys were successful?
Yeah, first of all, we worked, like I said, we worked a lot smarter. Even on the practice field, we went over situational football a lot more. And then we watched film a lot. We watched film, but we watched it the right way. Like, he understood how to break it down, and his assistants knew how to break it down to where we were learning when we were in there. We weren't just watching film and not meaning anything to us. Like, as you even go to the NFL, you start watching film at a different level. And I think he set that bar a little higher, like the film watching, the time. The time well spent.
Yeah, a little more serious, probably.
Yeah, it was just time better spent. Like, everything we did was time better spent.
With a purpose,
With a purpose. Even, in the off season, we had karate instructors coming in and stretching us, and we were doing karate, but it was more like, yoga stuff. It was like
flexibility,
like hip movements and flexibility and stuff, and we'd never done anything like that. And then. Like, DiNardo had us throwing a big football that was aired up in Saban, we went down to a little smaller football. We could throw a little better. That wasn't a small football, but it wasn't the large girth ball that DiNardo liked to run the ball with. It was like a rugby ball. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what were we doing? So he outsmarted the opposition. We worked hard. We felt like machines, and we're like, ain't nobody more in shape than us or prepared than us. And then that's a mental battle that you've already won.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, just during, on the field specifically, your sophomore season, destroying Western Carolina and then having, beating Kentucky, Mississippi State, Alabama, Ole Miss, and then, going on to the Peach Bowl. And even though, you only played the first half, you guys still beat number 15, Georgia Tech. I mean, having such a successful season like that at LSU, was that something, coming into your time at LSU, you dreamed of and, you finally felt like you achieved it that year?
There was still really some up and downs. I mean, we were so new to everything that Saban was doing and Jimbo was doing, and trying to kind of build on every week. We had a good little run in the SEC that year. We won some games. I think we won 4 in a row or 5 in a row, which that hadn't happened at LSU in a long time. So I mean, there were some signs of good things happening. It just was, you knew that in a year or two with the guys that he was bringing in, recruiting wise, and that team chemistry with the coaches, you knew it was going to be good for the future. So it was kind of like a springboard year for the program. It was like, okay, let's get to a certain point, and then 2 or 3 years later, they win the national championship. Like, he had to make those jumps,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, just, always, you talked about, you always wanted to be in the spotlight, you wanted to be the guy. After, your time at LSU, getting picked in the 6th round, I'm sure, you wanted to, probably go higher, and, going in as a backup role. I mean, was that kind of tough on you also, kind of, knowing that, you're going to have to, fight for a spot on the roster as opposed to, being the guy at first?
Oh yeah, man, that was real tough. Just because you never got reps and practice. When I got drafted by Seattle and Holmgren was there, and he brought in Matt Hasselbeck to take over the starting job, and brought him in from Seattle. So he needed all these reps, And I love Matt still to this day. He's a really good friend of mine. We were roommates in camp, but. He needed all the reps because he was going to be the starter, and there was no doubt he was going to have to play because Holmgren had brought him over and paid him a bunch of money. So, he was the guy. So, you just don't get any reps. And then I got traded to Cleveland or picked up by Cleveland that first week of the first year, and they had just paid Tim Couch, who's another great buddy of mine. Same thing. Went to Kentucky, first pick overall. He's getting paid $60 million. Well, he's going to play.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting back there waiting for something to happen and trying to stay in tune. But if you're like me and want to play and got ADD, it's like, man, sitting around for 3 years not getting to play is terrible. I don't know if it's worse than the minor leagues, but it's bad. So it's like you just want to play, and you can't. There's nothing you can do about it at that point. Just bide time and work every day. So I just took it as I'll just keep my body in shape and learn as much as I can, and if the time ever comes. But it wasn't fun, because you're not getting to show your skills.
Yeah.
In practice, you do a little bit, but it's still not enough. We had great coaches in Cleveland when I was there for 3 years with Bruce Arians and Todd Bowles and Pagano, and we had some great coaches. And Bruce Arians knew what I could do. He just he hit. They were going to play Couch because he was making $10 million a year.
No, yeah, definitely. It's all about bringing in someone with that kind of investment. You definitely, I'm sure you knew that he was going to play just because of the investment they made with him. But just playing in Seattle and then going over to Cleveland for a few years, but never getting that chance after 4 years in the NFL. Is that kind of when you knew that it was time to kind of put that to rest too, football, just because you didn't see the success that you were hoping for?
No, I thought I could stay around for 15 years, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
But I really did. I was. It was kind of crazy. I was playing golf on a Tuesday, which is an off day, down at Firestone, and I got a call from Butch Davis, or from Pete Garcia, I think, who worked for Butch Davis, and Butch Davis is never. I didn't think he was a great head coach. He's a good. He's a good position coach. He was a good D line guy for the Cowboys, but he was our head coach, and he didn't last very long in the NFL. But he called me and said we had a couple injuries at the O-line position. We're gonna have to release you, and because we've got to bring in a couple offensive line. We're just gonna go with 2 quarterbacks this week, and him and Kelly Holcomb had been in the league like 8 years. He was another quarterback in our QB room, and so I got released, and they told me, "Oh, we're going to pick you back up in a week or 2 when everybody gets healthy again and all that," but it never happened. So, I stayed working out, stayed training, stayed with my agency, and then I got a call. Well, actually, I was throwing at USC with some of my buddies, Dwayne Jarrett and Steve Smith.
Okay.
When my brother was at USC playing with Matt Liner and Reggie Bush and all them, and I was throwing out there for Pete Carroll for Pro Day, and Lane Kiffin, saw me out there throwing. He's like, "Dude, you can throw the rock. I'd love to bring you up to the Raiders to try out." And I'm like, "Okay." So I went up there, and there's like 6 QBs that day, and it was like 2 or 3 years after I had gotten released by the Browns, and there was a bunch of guys up there that day. And anyways, out of all the guys, I threw better than everybody else, so he signed me. And so I was there with the Raiders for 3 or 4 months, and then and that's when Jamarcus Russell got signed, and he was the first pick overall, as well, from LSU. And so I knew Jamarcus and everything, but Al Davis didn't think he was ready to play because he was out of shape, and they're like, "We need to get somebody who's played a lot of football lately," and they brought in Dante Culpepper, and they released me. So if Jamarcus would have been ready to play, I would have probably been in the league for another 3 or 4 years. It's just that's how
didn't work out. Yeah,
timing works.
No, yeah. So just after, I'm just curious. After even college, you got to play with your brother 1 year with the Cleveland Browns. But always, being around them in the game of football, at LSU and for a season in pro football. I mean, was he someone you leaned on, when you were teammates?
He was 3 years younger than me, so I was always excited to have him around. Like when he came to camp twice with us with the Browns, and both times, man, I was excited. I was like, "This is unbelievable, man. My brother gets to go to camp," and I remember being out there on the practice field throwing to him and everything. So it was super fun, to have him there.
Yeah.
I just, you're so into what you have to do during training camp. It's like you're just working, you're putting in work, and it's a grind. And so, I probably didn't get to enjoy that as much as I'd like to, but man, it was awesome having him out there. And, at LSU, me and him were really close because he lived right below me, and we got to spend a lot of time together. And he's the reason I went back to LSU. I probably would have gone and played somewhere else that was at the time, was a better football team, than when I showed up to LSU. I mean, I had to do it all over again. I probably would have gone somewhere else, but he was at LSU, so I wanted to go down there and play with him. But there was a lot of teams that were a lot better than LSU at the time that, Spurrier wanted me to come, and Bowden wanted me to come, and Oklahoma's coach Stoops wanted me to come there. I could have gone anywhere to play. It's just he was at LSU and had already had some success and was starting. So I was like, I'm going to go down there and throw to my brother,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, definitely, that's got to be a special component, just talking about, being with your brother, that's something, not a lot of people get to do. But, just, after your time in pro football, you mentioned, you kind of finished up with the Raiders there. And then, before, you tried for baseball again in 2013, just reading up a little bit about you did some commentating, sports commentating.
Yeah, right? I do radio.
Yeah, I'm just curious, was that ever a passion of yours? You kind of just went into it, just because you've always been a sports guy. How did it kind of work out for you, to transition, and also, even the transition, to the radio booth? I mean, was that a tough transition, knowing that you're not going to be on the field?
You know, I like being around the game, man. I love football. I don't particularly want to do any radio stuff for baseball. I don't really enjoy the long seasons or anything. So
Yeah.
I never really wanted to talk baseball, but football is it's such a fun environment around the games. It's just, I love being a part of that game day kind of atmosphere stuff. So that's why I do the football stuff. I cover LSU. I have my own radio shows. I have my own podcast, stuff like that. So that's fun, and to cover LSU, and then when you cover LSU, you're covering the SEC, and then that's you're ultimately covering the national stage because Alabama and everybody's been so good. So it's like you get to cover all of football really by just covering LSU. So that's kind of morphed into some other things, but I do a lot of different business deals as well. So I have fun with everything I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, I wish I'd have played some more football.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that, a lot of people definitely want to continue. And then just after a few years, sitting out of the league, you went on to MLB Networks, the next Knuckler, and you tried out for them. And just curious, how you got involved with them. I know a lot of other football players like Doug Flutie, your own brother, a couple other guys were on the show. Just how did that process go? Being on a TV show, but also trying to in reality, win a position to play professional baseball again.
Yeah, the Major League Baseball Network called me, and because R.A. Dickey had won the Cy Young, it never happened before.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? Being a knuckleball pitcher, you kind of got to stand upright to throw the knuckleball and get behind it. It's almost like a catcher or quarterback. So we ought to bring in and do like a reality show on trying to teach these guys how to throw a knuckleball and see if they can do it. So it was like kind of this spoof deal. Like, well, we're gonna bring these former quarterbacks in that are high profile athletes and put them in, coach them up by Charlie Huff and Tim Wakefield and see if they can throw a knuckleball and actually try to perfect it. So it was like the Big Break or whatever, where there's someone eliminated, or like Survivor, someone was eliminated every round or whatever. And so it was a quick show. We taped it in 2 weeks down at Vero Beach, Dodger Town, the old Dodger Town, and we got trained up. But anyways, I was the only one that had ever played baseball or ever really pitched, at a high level. And been around it, and I'd throw knuckleballs like just jacking around.
Yeah, for fun, yeah.
For fun out in the outfield, shagging balls. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
And I could throw, so I was like, man, I should win this thing. No problem. So I got my arm in shape. I was throwing hard, 88, 89. And then I threw it, and I threw the knuckleball pretty good. It's hard to throw strikes with it.
Yeah.
But I had it knuckling and moving, so it's like, half the time it would be strikes, And so, anyways, I thought I competed in the deal and won that reality competition show. But those guys, they weren't baseball guys, So it was I had a leg up on them for sure.
Just dealing with, trying to, win the spot, but, also, having to deal, with the TV cameras and stuff. I mean, was that hard, or did you not mind it, because you like the big, lights and,
Yeah, that don't bother me. I enjoy all that. I mean, I was raised up like that, where we had a lot of media attention when I was a kid, probably too much for a high school kid, because I was, we had garnered a ton of attention, and, man, I was invited to everything, every award show known to man, everything when I was like 17, 18. So it was, I played on the Olympic team. I'd done a lot of stuff, so I was used to that. That's my dad was a preacher and a coach, so I was always, always in front of people.
Yeah. It is.
Always.
Yeah, so, just, after, struggling with your command, for about a month in the minors, just with the spring training games. Getting released after that. Did you kind of know at that point that it was time to maybe move on from the game? Just curious. Like when did you know that you're getting released? I mean, was that kind of a sign for you? I mean, how did you go about dealing with the process of having to give up baseball again?
Yeah, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. They came to me. Derek Hall, who was the GM at the time for the Diamondbacks, he called me and goes, I pitched against the Giants in the big league spring training game, and he came to me and he goes, dude, we just got a call from the Marlins, and they actually own your rights, so we can't even keep you here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought I was going to go to extended spring training, and they were going to work with me a little bit more, but or send me to like Double-A Mobile or something. They had talked about a couple different things that they wanted me to do potentially, and then he comes in and goes, man, the Marlins on your rights, dude. I mean, we'd have to like trade for you or pay for you or whatever. And he's like, we're just not going to do that. I mean, for a knuckleballer who's 40 years old.
Yeah.
So I mean, I completely understood. I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't do it either. But so as soon as I got released, which was the last week of camp, I made it all the way to the very end, right before the season started, actually. I had Wakefield call Boston and Florida, and I called Houston, and I was like, man, I need to be throwing this thing like in Double-A games, or something.
Yeah.
And the Marlins wouldn't let me go. So, and then they like, we don't want to deal with a knuckleballer. So they're just, there's nowhere for me to go. I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean that's a little awkward. Definitely not letting you come and play for them, but also not giving you up. I mean that must have been kind of annoying and frustrating for you.
They're like, we don't want a knuckleballer, but we're not going to give you up to some other team for
Yeah.
free. They're going to have to pay us $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever they wanted. I didn't know what they wanted. That was never mentioned. I don't think any team was willing to bring a 40-year-old knuckleballer in for $50,000 or $25,000. I don't even know what it was, but the Marlins were like, no, we got his rights, and rightly so. I mean, they had drafted me, and I had left them back to play football,
Yeah. So, just, before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you, one final question. I'm sure a lot of people have, asked you this question and, just reading up about you, I've seen, some of, your responses to, kind of the general question. If you could do it all over again, I mean, would you stick with one of them? Would you do it the same way again? Would you, flip-flop, go football first? I mean, looking back on it, how would you, instruct, a younger version of yourself to do it all over?
Yeah, I would probably. Oh man, that's what's so funny is I still don't know. And
I was just wondering if you knew.
Football, I would probably go back and play football at a university where they were rocking. Like Oklahoma right now, or USC was 10 years ago, or Miami was in the 80s. Like, I would go somewhere where
high-profile throwing,
part of an unbelievable team, and I would have success.
Throwing 40, 50 times.
Yeah, I would be smarter on where I went to college at the time. Like, I loved LSU. Like, going to LSU now is probably it is a lot better than where it was when I showed up. So they're a top 10 team. I mean, LSU was not the place for a quarterback to go back then. And they've really had problems for a long time with their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, just because that's not the culture there.
More defense-oriented team.
Yeah, it's defense-oriented. They're like the Ravens. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just that's how they play ball. And so, that changing where I went to school probably, go to play for Florida, Spurrier or something where they're high-flying offense, I would have probably done that. That would have been that'd probably been what I'd done.
So no, kind of, you would have just put baseball on the back burner and, try to go full in on football, you think?
I would have probably gone to college and try to play both, but I would have gone to college where the football team was awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did any, colleges contact you about playing both? Just curious, being able to play baseball and football in college, like some guys are doing now?
They did. Yeah, they did. When I was in high school, everybody did. In high school, once you signed a pro contract with the Marlins, you can't go back and play college baseball. So coming back, there was no opportunity to play college baseball. It's just college football that you could, the NCAA wouldn't allow that. But out of high school, everybody, that's what everybody's pitch was. I had 5 visits and I went to 5 unbelievable schools. I went to Miami, I went to Stanford, I went to Texas, I went to Mississippi State and LSU, and all of them had great baseball programs and some decent football schools. So I could have gone anywhere in the country to play. Football, Notre Dame, baseball. I could have gone to Notre Dame, I could have gone to USC, I could have gone to Penn State, Paterno, everybody was recruiting me. I wanted to stay at home and go to LSU, and that's why I signed with them. And they were just coming off a national championship baseball season in 1993, so I was going to be the shortstop, and play for the Tigers, and so that was really what was the drawing card to LSU.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, definitely. LSU's definitely known, as a high-profile baseball, football, program. But just curious, as we wrap up, just want to, let the people listening, know what you're up to now. I know you, talked about, trying to get in real estate. Just reading up about you, along with, being on radio and sportscasting.
Yeah, man. So I have my own podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, which is BLEAV Podcast Network. I cover LSU football.
Awesome.
But I'm a part of several companies. I'm a part of a lifestyle shot company. It's an all-natural energy shot brand out of Boston called Drink True, TRU. So it's drinktrue.com. And then I'm also a part of a company called Members Travel, which is a travel company where you can get travel for a lot less than you would on Expedia, Kayak, and all that. But you got to become a member. So it's full concierge travel company. It's called memberstravel.com. So I do a lot of different things, but those are 2 of I guess my babies where I'm a part of it. So and have equity in the company. So I'm pumped about those 2 brands.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. You keep on doing new things. Definitely, branching out to hear. Yeah. It's great to hear. Yeah. So just thanks for joining us. I know you're a very busy guy. Just wanted to thank you again for coming on. Giving us a little bit of your time, talking about your past and what you're up to now. We wish you the best of luck, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on your show, pal. And anytime, call me anytime if you ever want to get to other players or you need anything, give me a shout.
All right. Thank you, man. Have a good day.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye. Yeah, so that was Josh Booty, former MLB and NFL player. It was great talking to him. Very nice guy. Told us some great insight, about, kind of redoing, his career, which way he'd go again, just talking to him, great to hear, even though, he might have done it differently, he still gave it his all, in both sports, he still had great experiences with his brother, playing in professional and college football, even in baseball, he made it his dream. So, he completed both of his dreams, playing professional baseball and football, which is awesome. We wish him the best of luck, what he's up to now, as you mentioned before, being with a travel agency, lifestyle shots, his own podcast for LSU football. So, definitely check out, some of the jobs he's up to now. Listen to his podcast if you can. He spelled it out for you guys before. Look at his travel agency and his lifestyle brand for shots, for energy. So, definitely check him out. And, thanks again for watching and, have a good day.